I'm actually going to speak to the kids about the biggest mistake in my life, and I'm actually pretty nervous about it.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's Sarah and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I really wanted to take kind of a trip down memory lane, if you will. Mainly about how Robyn's behavior and Kody's behavior and even the behavior of Robyn's ex-husband and the older children's biological father have really created a really toxic environment for Dayton, Brianna, and Aurora that really is preventing them from being thriving adults. So let's jump into it. One of the biggest things I've talked about, that I've seen talked about throughout season 16, especially when there was such an emphasis with Kody on pushing Gabriel and Garrison out of the home, is, well, what is up with Robyn's oldest kids? The other adult children, they're growing up, they're getting jobs, they're going off to school, off to the military, they're getting married, having kids, running businesses. Yet the adult children, or nearly adult children in Brianna's case, that are living in Robyn's house are not, like, it's just a mystery as to what they are doing. Additionally, we have heard from like Gabriel, Garrison, Mariah, a bunch of the older kids, how COVID has impacted their lives. Traveling has become hard, if nearly impossible. Isabel had to travel to get her surgery. We've kept up, for lack of a better word, with the other children, but not with Robyn's adult children. People are speculating that Aurora and Dayton are maybe taking online college classes. Dayton was at one point enrolled in school in Flagstaff. I mean, that was one of the impetus for Robyn to be so dead set on moving. Then there's speculation that he dropped out. But literally we don't know. Nothing is confirmed. It's just like all speculation. Also, Brianna, she is, I think, 16 turning 17. So she has to be approaching her senior year of high school. I graduated high school at 17. So I mean, I'm not sure. She has to be approaching the time where Kody usually, lately has been pushing his kids out of the home. When compared to the other children, Kody views pretty much their lack of thriving as compliance and loyalty, and he actually views this as a good thing. Viewers and logical adults, we see this and we're like, oh my gosh, like they're suffering from arrested development and a super toxic codependent relationship with both Kody and Robyn, but especially Robyn. We're going to be talking more about Robyn in today's video. Well, hindsight is 2020. Like how did we get here? And in order to understand how the older children of Robyn got here, I think it is really important to look back on the road so far. When you go back and rewatch clips of certain episodes, it's clear that there has been a methodical breaking down over time of these kids' curiosity, their self-esteems, their, the natural inclination for independence. That has all been broken down over time by Robyn, and then when Kody entered the picture, by Kody as well. Her older kids learned very early on to be afraid, to live in fear. Instead of creating stability for her kids, Robyn time and time again created an environment of fear that the rug could be pulled out from them at any time. And we're going to go through some of those instances. In order to talk about this topic, we have to go back to season 6 and talk about Robyn's purity speech heard around the world.
One girl, she took her purity and she gave it to someone who begged for it. So she gave it away. She gave away her purity. And he didn't respect it. He threw it on the ground. And she spent her whole life trying to get it back, but you only have one. And it broke her heart, and she spent her whole life being sad about it. And then when she finally found the guy that she was supposed to be with, she had to go to him and say, look, I gave away my purity to someone else. He kind of stole it from me. and this was supposed to be yours, but I gave it to someone else, and I'm so sorry.
My goodness, where to even begin here? Her children, the product of her 9-year marriage, just had to sit there and hear her mother go to great lengths about her regret. And she even at one point called it her stolen purity. To speak so much and with such great emphasis of your regret of your past relationship, when that relationship produced 3 children, in my opinion, is super fucked up. It would certainly give me a complex if I was one of Robyn's older kids. And, it would make me think, damn, like, okay, mom says she loves me, but then she also calls us a mistake, and she says that she regrets being with my dad, and I would be like, Then there is the adoption. Kody legally adopted Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna in 2015. This was after, Mary supposedly had the great idea to divorce Kody so he could legally marry Robyn and do the adoption of the older children. That just goes to show, and I'm going to go into it in just a second, that there were so many moving parts in order to make this happen. And in my opinion, it was like, for what? To what purpose? How did this positively impact her children? Let's just take a look at the clip.
There's always been this kind of nagging concern that if Robyn were to pass, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna would automatically go back to her ex without any recourse for our family to have claim on them. They've been brothers and sisters now for years, and they would go back to a world that is somewhat strange to them. This is why this adoption is so vital to our family. It's so important.
So Kody and Robyn, their whole thing was that if Robyn, something were to happen to Robyn, Kody doesn't have legal claim to the children. Okay. So that was the reason why they wanted to legally adopt the kids, was to keep the family unit together. The problem is that the kids' biological father was still, to some extent, a part of their lives. In these clips, the kids say they're excited, but they really seem unsure. And it's just a strange predicament, being that they have a living biological father that they still have a relationship with or had a relationship with at that time. It's not really clear how or why the biological father signed away his parental rights, but he did. I've seen this discussed and people question and say, oh, they would never do it if they were in his position. I, for one, would say I would never do it in the same position, but he did. It was done. But let's think about this for a second. If you are Dayton, Aurora, or Brianna, your mom goes on and on about how much she regrets the relationship that you are the product of, how much she wishes she could have given her purity to Kody, which if she had, you would not exist. And then your biological father signs away his parental rights to you. What does that say to you and your self-esteem as a child? Admittedly, on the show, the kids say at the time of the adoption, they hadn't seen their dad in a couple years for whatever reason. I don't know if it was like scheduling. He didn't really try. Robyn didn't really try. Who knows? But my God, I would go about this in such a completely different way if I were Robyn. Unless there was some sort of criminal, substance abuse, physical, emotional, mental abuse, unless there were those pre-existing conditions, I would try to foster and encourage a relationship with a living biological parent, even if I was like a foster parent. But that, that's just me. I wouldn't force a relationship, but I also wouldn't kill one either, like Robyn did. And again, why did her ex sign the rights away? So many questions, and ultimately it's the kids who suffered. So Kody adopts Robyn's kids, but then they go visit their biological dad after the adoption. What?
And we are now sending the kids back to Montana to see Robyn's ex.
I'm very excited to see him. I haven't seen him in a very long time.
It's been like how many years since we've seen him, and I'm glad. I'm not sure how he's gonna react to all the changes. Just hope that he'll probably set the dramatic stuff aside and just enjoy the time that we have to be there.
The kids seem nervous, cautiously optimistic, and again, they haven't seen their dad, they say, in a couple years. But also, this is a guy who just gave away his rights to you. I'm sure that this is a very confusing time for her kids. Why on earth would you pursue Kody legally adopting your kids? Well, we know you claim your reason is so that they could all stay together in the family unit should something happen to Robyn. Why would you do that and then facilitate a relationship with their biological father? That is so confusing to a young child, and at this time the kids were still pretty young. And oh, the revisionist history. The creepy sketch that Robyn had commissioned depicting a young Kody with the kids when they were younger, so like he's younger. It's like we wish this could have been the way it was from the start. Again, you are showing your kids how much you regret how they came into existence, and it's like, no, Kody is not their biological father. No, Kody was not there when they were babies. I mean, this, if it were me as a teenager or a young kid growing up like that, I would be so confused and my self-esteem would be in the shitter. We have seen Aurora suffer panic attacks on the show, and honestly, it makes sense. Like, I suffer from panic attacks, so I can empathize with her greatly. Constant moves, forcing a new dad on them, forcing a new family on them. It's a lot to grow up in that kind of environment. And on top of that, constantly hearing your mother talk about how much she regrets life before Kody. I mean, you can't help but think that includes you. Robyn says, oh, I love my kids, but I regret everything about how they came to be. I mean, it's just the two things just don't make sense. It is interesting in the show, the last couple seasons, especially seasons 15 and 16, they're really steering away from involving the kids in like interviews and stuff. And I wish that we did get interviews, because now that we see the children getting older, they're questioning Kody's authority more. I mean, we did get an interview with Isabel. We got an interview with Gabriel and Garrison. I want to see more. I want to see Dayton, Brianna, and Aurora tell us what life has been like, not leaving the house, being sequestered, as Robyn calls it, being compliant and loyal, as Kody calls it, and literally not having any sort of life. I can't help but think that this is probably intentional on Robyn's part. I mean, we only saw the inside of Robyn's house this season when they filmed Ariela's birthday and Thanksgiving. Like, we really don't see inside her house at all. Oh, and the time where she sat her kids down and told them how much, and that's another thing. She sits her kids down and tells them how much the family doesn't give a shit about them. The family that she had her ex-husband sign away his rights so that they could be legally brought into. She is now telling them they don't give a shit about you. It's so fucked up, you guys. But I just have to believe this is somewhat intentional on Robyn's part to kind of deflect. Like, don't pay attention that my kids don't have a lot going on because Kody and I want it that way. People speculate that Dayton and Aurora are taking college classes, probably online, but nothing confirmed. We don't see like, oh, Dayton just finished his spring semester, or Aurora just, got an A in this class. We see none of that. And it's just, I have to think that it's intentional deflection. Another thing that has been talked about and just questioned is, why has Robyn's ex-husband never spoken out? He is zipped the lip. I'm sure he has been offered money to give his side of the story, and he never has. And Part of me thinks that perhaps this is a way for him to just not inflict more trauma on the kids, that, you know, if Robyn and Kody were just applying all this pressure, and the kids then said, hey, yeah, we want you to do this, then he just, you know, complied, which Kody loves. So on the one hand, I wish we would have heard from him at some point, but if that is the reason, then I have a lot of respect for that. Ultimately, for me, it's really heartbreaking to watch these kids, the adult kids of Robyn, and I call them adult children. I know Brianna is still a minor, but you know, for all intents and purposes, these are the adult children that absolutely could be helping, taking care of the younger kids. So again, what does the nanny do? But it's really heartbreaking to see these kids like be broken down the way that they have been over the years. Kody views this as a good thing, so I don't expect this to change. And the kids are conditioned to believe that like this is how you keep Kody and Robyn happy. And honestly, they don't have anything else. So if they start to question Kody and Robyn's authority, then they're going to be out on their ass and they have nothing to fall back on. So it's just super heartbreaking. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Reality Squad, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a good one. Much love.